Hello, everybody. I want to read a quote from Jack London from Turtles of Tasman, 1916. I'd rather sing one wild song and burst my heart with it than live 1,000 years watching my digestion and being afraid of the wet. Well, this is an introduction to a film you're going to see, a short film, about 10 minutes, of an interview that I did with his daughter Becky when she was 85. The story began when I started playing and singing a wild song penned by Jack himself that first connected her to me. I was in between songs where I played old-time piano for sing-alongs at Shakey's Pizza Parlor in Jack London Square. This is back in 1973, when a distinguished-looking guy came up to me and he asked if I could play a song for a group of people that were meeting upstairs. There was a big hall upstairs that had a small piano at it. He said the people were the members of the Jack London Buffs Association, and they were having their annual meeting. He gave me a mimeographed copy of some poetry called the Abalone Song, with the names Jack London, Ambrose Bierce, George Sterling, Mary Austin, and Gillette Burgess that were under the title. He said some of the lyrics were first published in Jack's book, Valley of the Moon, where one of his fictional characters teaches others about the importance of singing a sacred song about abalones. He said that Jack and these co-lyricists actually did sing the song in real life while pounding the white meat after having picked the abalone off the rocks in California. This is something I've been doing for many years myself subsequent. So you can imagine that when I saw this, I had been doing a lot of abalone diving at the time. I was kind of excited. But when I started actually playing it, it became even more exciting for some reason, as you'll see. I sat down at the piano, I looked at the words, and of course I had asked him, well, do you have chords and music for this? Because, I don't know the song. And he said, nobody has chords and music for it. It was just, printed in Valley of the Moon, so you'll have to just fake some chords and we'll all sing along. So I really felt joyful about doing it. And as I started playing this tune, oh, some folks boast of quail on toast because they think it's Tony. But I'm content to pay my rent and live on abalone. Some live on hope and some on dope, some on alimony. Just give me a plate of gin and a tub of abalone. It went on and on and on. And everybody had a great time with it, right? When I got off the stage, I started to walk back, and there were all picnic tables that were set up, maybe 300 people there. And I walked to the second picnic table, and a lady, I was maybe 20-something, and a lady who looked like she was around 60, turned out she was 65 at the time, with white hair, kind of reached up and grabbed my hand and stopped me. And she looked up into my eyes, and she said, that sounds like something. No, that was later. The first thing she said to me was, how did you know that song? And this is why I started to say about the other thing she said. As soon as she said, how did you know that song? I kind of dropped down to my knees and got at eye level with her and said, well, can I read a poem to you or recite a poem to you? I mean, I didn't really even answer her question. Can I recite a poem to you? And she just, without also being surprised, she let me do it. And I read a poem, and I remember that I may die upon the morrow, the probability is high, and though my loves may weep in sorrow, still I know that I must try to dare it all in spite of fear or danger, that I must answer every call so life won't be a stranger. Is it courage that makes me challenge dying, or merely the belief that death is timed by fate? Should I try and keep on trying, or merely sleep and eat and wait? For many, life is mere survival, but I was blessed with strength and wealth. So I must search for the answers vital to bring the earth back to its health. So let this poem be my epitaph. I wondered and I tried, I fought, I loved, I laughed, I cried, but it was while living life I died. You know, I wrote that in the Marine Corps in 1969. And here I am, a complete stranger, down on my knees, saying, how did I know this song? And I'm telling her a poem. She grabbed my hand with her other hand, because we were holding hands this whole time. And she said, that sounds like something Daddy would have written. Well, to make a long story short and get you into the video, Becky and I spent the next 20 years together in many ways. Of Christmas, Thanksgiving, I took her on her first sailboat rides on the bay in my sailboat. I brought her to my horses. She got on a horse for the first time. Her mom never let her do these things with Jack. You know, I have so many photos and wonderful times. She loved the piano playing the most. And apparently many of the songs that I played were songs that she said were Jack's favorites. Alabama Bound, After You've Gone, Ace in the Hole, Won't You Come Home, Bill Bailey, Shining Harvest Moon. I remember when I sang Daddy's Little Girl to her in the Sonoma place where I was playing the piano, the saloon in Sonoma. She cried. And she remembered her daddy singing that song to her in 1906. She told me that the happiest times of her life was when Jack took her to the Orpheum and in Oakland. And his favorite act was a fellow who would play some ragtime and popular tunes on a big old upright that was on the center stage. And while playing a lively song one day, that they were there together, one that I played often and have since I've been 5 years old, Jack leaned over and whispered in her ear that if he ever gets to come back after he leaves this world, he wants to be able to do that. And of course, you know, I recently won the gold medal in the old-time piano contest at the University of Mississippi, in the old-time piano contest. You can see my piano playing on YouTube. So anyway, I introduced this brief story. There's so much more to follow, and maybe someday I'll write a book about it. But right now, this is the first time anyone has seen this video for many, many years that I finally got onto a CD, and Walter was kind enough to say, let's show this to people that have an interest in the phenomenon of rebirthing and reincarnation. So enjoy. One of the things, Becky, that I wanted to talk about is that, you know, you've been interviewed by lots of groups and you've spoke to lots of audiences about your father, so you're obviously real knowledgeable about Jack London. And I guess that's significant because he's, I guess, one of the most well-known authors in the world. What, in Russia and in other parts of the world.
And in this country, in California.
He is, and you're very eloquent and knowledgeable about him, but besides just knowing a lot about Jack London, you in your own right have, I think, a great understanding or intuitiveness about life and about the world that he lived in and the world that you lived in. What do you attribute your insight into how he felt about things, and what do you think, what do you attribute it to?
Well, for one thing, I have a good memory, and I remember in pictures, and when people, especially someone like Daddy, that described everything in the most beautiful language, perfect language, it made pictures for me. And when I read his Alaska stories, I feel the cold almost. And Same thing down the South Sea. Every place, one of the latest ones, latest books he wrote, the Star Rover, there's an episode in Korea, old Korea, when people are walking the dusty roads, the century-old roads, and I can feel that hot, dusty dirt from the way he described it, and I see it. And so I can remember that, and I feel as though I've been there. Maybe I had, because I've always had that feeling. What do the French call it? Déjà vu. I've been there before. It's a wonderful feeling.
The idea of being there before is sort of part of what we're going to be sharing with our I guess our secret in a few minutes. But even the Star Rover, the book that Jack London wrote, he described the concept of reincarnation in that, didn't he?
Oh, well, I don't think he described it, he implied it.
Yeah.
He acted as though everyone understood it and believed in it. We were sharing, and he was giving his pictures. Now, whether that was all fiction or whether it was his innermost feeling, I have no idea. Because he also made you think that he was a nasty sea captain or an ignorant South Sea native. He had a wonderful way with words.
Well, Jack London himself believed in the philosophy or the concept that life goes on,
Oh,
like
yes.
all things in nature, that there is a cycle in which it repeats itself in a different
Well,
way.
certainly in our life here is so short. Used to be 70 years and 10, and now I think it's 84 years. But anyhow, it's a short...
Are you saying that because you're 84 years old?
No, I'm 85.
Oh, 85. Well, then you've already proven that wrong.
No, I always think of my sister. She died when she was 71, her birthday, 71. So she hit the 70 years and 10 pretty closely. But about Daddy, he used to say the short lifespan of human beings was incongruous with the life, say, of a redwood tree, or the life of the rocks, the formations of the earth. We must have existed before. And so that's why it makes me certain of reincarnation.
Well, certainly all of the great minds, from Socrates and Plato to Einstein and Emerson and Thoreau and Tolstoy. I mean, the list of people, of the great minds of our heritage that devoutly believe that absolutely in the concept.
Well, life is so short, we have to have something behind it.
How do you think that the concept of reincarnation, if it was believed in our culture, which there's a lot of skepticism about it, and of course we can't prove or disprove it,
Oh,
but
no.
how do you think that philosophy, as opposed to the heaven and hell, and this is the only one time around, would be helpful to people in our culture if they had some sense of trust that there was going to be this opportunity?
Well, it gives you a sense of hope. If what you're going to do, if you're working for something, helping other people, well, a doctor or nurse, they're working to save human lives, to extend our lifespan. And if they can accomplish that, even at a year or two, or find a solution, a medicine that will halt a disease, like the Salk vaccine for what you call infant paralysis, that wasn't that it, yeah.
A polio or polio,
Polio, yeah. And I was told you weren't supposed to call it by that.
Is that right?
But anyhow, that was a marvelous conception, and maybe 100, 500 years ago somebody had the idea, maybe I can do that sometime, and in various existences that was working in the mind. I don't think the mind decays and goes back to its its natural parts. That is...
It would certainly explain some of the proteges that at young ages and that have been so advanced
yeah.
in their thinking. But one hypothesis is like the Big Bang concept of how the universe happened, that
Yeah.
there might have been some cosmic mind that also fragmented, and now that all of them are working through lives to try to get back into a godlike spirit.
Yeah.
Who knows? I mean, we're never going to know. But I think the exciting thing is that that the concept which is, by the way, being worked on by a Dr. Stevenson at the University of Minnesota. I think you might have read some of his work. He's hypnotizing people from India.
Oh yeah, you told me about it.
Yeah, and what he's finding is that young children who haven't been exposed to TV and stories are indeed remembering ideas of previous
I read
lives.
several of his short articles when I could read. No,
Because he's one of the few people in the scientific community
Yeah.
that's talking about those kinds of things.
Well, and it's funny, is it the Buddhists, Confucius, some Eastern religion, the one that believes in nirvana, we're all at the final end, all one great big whole.
Which is similar to that idea.
And so that is the Western idea that we're trying to get together again.
How has the belief that you have and the thoughts that you have, how has it helped you go through your own personal tragedy of life? I mean, you lost your father when you were, what, 13?
15.
So 15 years old, and you've had your own personal tragedies in your life. How have you survived them so beautifully? And
I always said it was because I was born an optimist, but somebody wrote a book, Tomorrow Will Be Better, and all of that, and I think it's because I believe in progress, and each time we live a life, we learn something new, we learn how to adapt to others, we learn how to accept things that are seemingly impossible, but maybe human ingenuity will find a way to solve the problems, and I'm always hopeful, and the fact that you have to have a long-distance view of things, and that means reincarnation to me, to be able to think, life isn't going to end abruptly, it's going to continue, and I'm going to continue.
what kind of life would you see Becky London living the next time around? What kinds of opportunities and lessons and areas of interest can you see the Becky London?
Well, what I would like to do would be to work with people, to help them, to encourage them to wake up their brains, their minds. I'm not a nurse. I don't believe like Sister Teresa. She does wonderful work because you have to have a sound body to accomplish things, but some people do that sort of work, and I want to wake up their minds and work with people. I suppose that's a form of teaching, but well, I'll have to develop patience in another life, which I don't have now, but maybe sort of inspiration, something, some sort of work that I could lead people to wake them up and make them think.
Now, I guess this is the part that where they're going to think we're crazy if anybody ever watches this video. But our relationship over the past decade, it's been longer than that even, since the Jack London Square time when I came up to you and read a poem to you, and you said, that sounds like something my daddy would have read. And from that day forward, you and I have held a belief that we've shared, that I am the reincarnated spirit of Jack London.
Definitely, because I remember Daddy when he was a young man, and you're much younger than I am, and I can almost see, physically you don't resemble him at all, but, or maybe in facial expressions, but that's not the physical makeup, because Daddy was a burly man, I always thought, and well, in a way more mature, because he had had a lot of hard work in his life, but somehow I've always felt so comfortable with you. I've known you so long, and the decade isn't really a long time to know anybody. But that's a way, a sympathy between us. I don't know any better way to express it.
And the things that we've come across, that we've talked and we've shared, that you've indicated there's no one else could have known that it was never written about them.
We remembered the same things.
Right, the time about the episode where I cried when I remembered how badly you felt at the little piano recital where I gave more attention to your sister, and the things that like that as far as we know have never been published. I couldn't have known those things.
I don't think anybody except myself and you ever had thought of it. It's never occurred to them.
And the other thing besides this intuition that you and I have, there's been, in my mind, the idea that if Jack London, with the mistakes and the talents that he had, if there were such a thing as reincarnation, he were going to come back, it seems that the things that I've done as, I started playing the old songs, that I never took lessons, that he liked. Some of the songs that were my favorite were his favorite, and you had indicated that he always wanted to play the piano, and that was something he never did in that lifetime. And at a very young age, I was automatically sort of finding myself learning that and self-teaching. And of course, with the psychology, with the horses, with the sailing, so many things seem...
Oh yeah, your lives are parallel. And yet, you're not copying him. After it's done, we found out that he did the same thing.
Right, and it's just taking that next step, the priority on physical fitness, which he would have wanted. Writing, for example, as he did eventually for the money at a point in his life, and being sorry and saying, I don't want to be a materialist, but I have to because I have so many debts. And here, all the things that I write are, there's no concept of the money. I say I work as a firefighter, so I don't have to do that. And
you want to express and help people with what you feel and know. And I think that's what he was trying to do in a lot of his writing.
Do you think that there would be any, now I don't know if we're ever going to let anybody know about this or not, but I guess, and of course they would say we were crazy or trying to capitalize on his fame.
Talking out of the top of our heads.
Exactly. But it seems somehow that if so many people believe in the concept of reincarnation, and that if magically you and I have happened by chance to realize that here's a case where it's happened, and even let's say whether it is really true or not, because there's no way we can prove it, is there any value to people seeing the parallels between Jack London and myself in terms of growing, in terms of the idea of reincarnation?
Well, I think so, because you are helping people in another way. Daddy maybe made them think, and you have given them practical help. Like the lady this morning, you gave her relief and comfort and knowledge that she could, and her husband could reproduce that feeling. And it's helped her physically and mentally, of course. And everything that you've done, the fitness work and all that, the exercising.
So that perhaps if someone could see that the practical aspect of reincarnation can be an opportunity to continue growing and learning and studying, that maybe this will be an opportunity to see how gracious a life you have led with that belief, and how beautiful a person that you are, and which is so true, Becky, it's so true, that maybe will give some hope to someone with a different perspective on things besides the Sunday religion.
I want to help people, but I don't know how to do it. My horrible inferiority complex always gets in the way. But I have tried to help people by telling them there's hope, there's a future. This life isn't all. Yeah, and they think I'm talking religion.
I love you. I think that's fun.
End of reel one.
I think that's great.